The Empire Ranch is a working ranch located in southern Arizona that is brimming with history. Thanks to the preservation of its main house and surrounding structures, the Old West has been suspended in time for visitors to see how life was lived in the late 19th century. And through the magic of motion pictures, the wild and woolly West has been brought to life time and again. And Empire Ranch has contributed to Hollywood history by playing a part in dozens of classic westerns. On this day, the TCM Backlot Tucson Desert Hollywood chapter moseyed over to the ranch to get a taste of its rich cinematic history.
He was just talking about the movie Red River, and this picture right here is a picture of Walter Brennan standing right over there in 1946. The movie was filmed in 1946, released in 1948.
Marty Freese, a local fixture in these parts, is a Western movie historian, actor, and tour guide.
But this scene was shot right at the end of that. Yeah, he's standing right there where Walter Brennan was at. And Walter Brennan was, by the way, Walter Brennan was the only actor to win the Academy Award 3 times for Best Supporting Actor. And what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of walk right out this hill about 40 feet, and you're going to get a great view, and I'll show you some pictures and give you kind of an overall view of things that were shot here on the ranch and the surrounding area. The bottom picture is Montgomery Clift, who was chosen to play his adopted son in this movie. And Noel Berry actually took upon himself to help Montgomery Clift how to handle a gun, ride a horse. He ended up doing a really credible job in the movie, especially in the fist fight scene at the end. This is the cattle drive when they're coming up the hill. This is an Elgin right here. This is a movie called The Fury.
The tour would be capped with a screening of the Howard Hawks classic Red River.
You've been walking around the ranch where John Wayne and a lot of the cowboys walk around the ranch when they're making this. One of the things that a lot of people didn't know is John Wayne, besides being a heavy smoker back in those days, chewed like you wouldn't believe. So you may have stepped where he spit.
I'll never wash my shoes again.
Yeah.
Before the screening, however, former stuntman and raconteur Steve Bunker de France entertained us with a little more Red River trivia.
And when pictures would come to this area, which was one of the attractions, was they knew they could get guys who could ride. You do a big Western today, and you're lucky if you can get 20, 30 people that can ride to what they need. I mean, they got people that survive, but that's about it. You know, the San Pedro River, they shot on the San Pedro. That was the shallow Red River. Then they shot at Sonoyta Creek, which was the deep Red River. And for that, they dammed it up because it wasn't deep enough. And that's where you have one of the great scenes, all-time scenes, which is used over and over and over in black and white stock footage of cattle crossing a river. If you've seen a black and white river with cows crossing a river, it was probably lifted from Red River. Now this is what John Wayne had to say about making Westerns. This was in an article in Saturday Evening Post in 1970. Westerns are folklore, just the same as the Iliad is folklore, and it's international. Our Westerns have the same appeal in Germany, Japan, America, and Greece that they have in our country. And don't ever think they're foolproof either. It takes good men to make good Westerns, and besides that, they're fun. I like making Westerns.
Our very own Mark Murphy is an Empire Ranch docent and a walking encyclopedia on the history of motion pictures. He brought the drive home, sharing insights into the story and shedding light on a real-life cattle drive similar to the one in Red River.
But one of the things that I noticed about it was the similarity, in spite of the fact that the plot and John Wayne's character are quite different, the similarity between this and Rio Bravo, which a lot of us just recently saw. And there's obviously the Hawksian female dialogue. Actually, there's 2 Hawksian women in this movie, so one at the beginning and one at the end, but But the interesting thing too is about the ending that's a little controversial. Maybe some of you have seen this before or read it, but I'll ask you to think about it in terms of the way Hawks created female characters and what their roles were in building the story and actually ending the story. Because I think actually, if you look at it from that perspective, the ending makes more sense than it does without that. The other thing I wanted to talk about is there is a tie-in to the Empire Ranch. In 1881, there was a huge increase in the cost of shipping cattle on the Southern Pacific. The Southern Pacific was always doing this to people, raising their costs of shipping, and Ned Vail said, why don't we just take the cattle ourselves to California? So they mounted a east to west cattle drive. It was an exciting trip. There was a flood on the Gila. There was a stampede, just like the movie. For those of you that are from Tucson, they followed the Rita River to get around Tucson. So imagine, as you're driving down River Road nowadays, a cattle drive going down through the middle of the street. So that might be a worse version of Tucson traffic than exists today, I don't know. Certainly more aromatic. Most of the cowboys on the trip were Hispanic vaqueros from the ranch. And at the very end, a couple of guys had signed on to the trail in Yuma. And they went with them all the way to the mountains. It turned out they were being chased by the sheriff of Yuma County, and they were wanted for stealing horses. And unfortunately, one of them ran, and the sheriff shot him and killed him. So there was a shootout, a fatal shootout at the end. Not like, well, Red River didn't have a fatal shootout at the end, but there was a shootout at the end.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, we'll skip over that. Let's just say there was a shootout, a fatal shootout at the end of this cattle drive. And it was sad because it very much upset Ned Vail, and like the common idea of how people lived in the West. They really didn't care about stuff like that back then. So anyway, without further ado, we will show the movie, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
I just realized, I started this with that, we need to start this like they started the trail dive. We need a bunch of yee-haws and yippies and stuff. Come on.